Good morning, you fantastic people. Happy Thursday. Hope you guys are having a good start to the morning and have a killer day if you're watching later in the video or later in the day. Without further ado, let's get into it. Why not? The fear of poverty. There can be no compromise between poverty and riches. The two roads that lead to poverty and riches travel in opposite directions. If you want riches, you must refuse to accept any circumstance that leads towards poverty. The word riches is here used in its broadest sense, meaning financial, spiritual, mental, and material estates. The starting point of the path that leads to riches is desire in chapters 1 and 2. You receive full instructions for the proper use of desire. In this chapter on fear, you have complete instructions for preparing your mind to make practical use of desire. Here then is a place to give yourself a challenge that will definitely determine how much of this philosophy you have absorbed. Here is the point at which you can turn prophet and foretell accurately what the future holds in store for you. If after reading this chapter you are willing to accept poverty, you may as well make up your mind to receive poverty. This is one decision you cannot avoid. If you demand riches, determine what form and how much will be required to satisfy you. You know the road that leads to riches. You have been given a roadmap, which, if followed, will keep you on that road. If you neglect to make the start or stop before you arrive, no one will be able to blame but you. This responsibility is yours. No alibi will save you from accepting the responsibility if you now fail or refuse to demand riches of life. The acceptance calls for but one thing, the only thing you can control, and that is a state of mind. A state of mind is something that one assumes. It cannot be purchased, it must be created. Fear of poverty is a state of mind, nothing else. But it is sufficient to destroy one's chances of achievement in any undertaking. This fear paralyzes the faculty of reason, destroys the faculty of imagination, kills off self-resilience, undermines enthusiasm, discourages initiative, leads to uncertainty of purpose, encourages procrastination, wipes out enthusiasm, and makes self-control an impossibility. It takes the charm from one's personality, destroys the principle of accurate thinking, diverts concentration of effort, and masters persistence, turns the willpower into nothingness, destroys ambition, beclouds the memory, and invites failure in every conceivable form. It kills love and assassinates the finer emotions of the heart, discourages friendship, and invites disaster in 100 forms, leads to sleepiness, misery, and unhappiness, and all this despite the obvious truth that we live in a society of overabundance of everything the heart could desire, with nothing standing between us and our desires, except lack of a defined purpose. The fear of poverty is, without doubt, the most destructive of the 6 basic fears. It has been placed at the head of the list because it is the most difficult to master. Considerable courage is required to state the truth about the origin of this fear, and still great courage to accept the truth after it has been stated. The fear of poverty grew out of the human tendency to prey upon others economically. Nearly all animals lower than humans are motivated by instinct, but as their capacity to think is limited, they prey upon one another physically. Humans, with their superior sense of intuition, with the capacity to think and to reason, do not eat other humans bodily. They get more satisfaction out of eating them financially. The age in which we live seems to be consumed by money madness. People are considered less than the dust of the earth unless they can display a fat bank account. But if they have money, never mind how acquired, they are too often idolized and treated as being above the law. The rule and politics dominate in business, and the whole world about them bows and respect when they pass by. Nothing brings so much suffering and humility as poverty. Only those who have experienced poverty understand the full meaning of this. It is no wonder that we fear poverty. Through a long line of inherited experiences, we have learned for sure that some people cannot be trusted, where matters of money and earthly possessions are concerned. This is a rather stinging indictment, the worst part of it being that it is true. Many marriages are motivated by the wealth possessed by one or both of the contracting parties. It is no wonder, therefore, that the divorce counts are busy. So eager are people to possess wealth that they will acquire in any feasible manner, through legal methods if possible, but through other methods if necessary or expedient. Self-analysis may disclose weaknesses that one does not like to acknowledge. This form of examination is essential to all who demand of life more than mediocrity and poverty. Remember, as you check yourself point by point, that you are the court and the jury, the prosecution and the defense, the plaintiff and the defendant. Face the facts squarely, ask yourself defining questions, demand direct replies. When the examination is over, you will know more about yourself. If you not feel that you can be impartially judged in this self-examination, call upon someone who knows you well to serve as judge while you cross-examine yourself. You are after the truth. Get it, no matter at what cost, even though it may temporarily embarrass you. The majority of people, if asked what they fear most, would reply, I fear nothing. The reply would be inaccurate because few people realize that they are bound, handicapped, whipped spiritually and physically through some form of fear. So subtle and deeply seated is the emotion of fear that one may or go through self-burdened with it, never recognizing its presence. Only courageous analysis will disclose the presence of this universal enemy. When you begin such analysis, search deeply into your character. Here is a list of the symptoms you should look for. Symptoms of the fear of poverty. Indifference, commonly expressed through lack of ambition, willingness to tolerate poverty, acceptance of whatever compensation life may offer without protest, mental and physical laziness, lack of initiative, imagination, enthusiasm, and self-control. Indecision, the habit of permitting others to do one's thinking, staying on the fence. Doubt, generally expressed through alibis and excuses designed to cover up. Explained away or apologize for one's failures, sometimes expressed in the form of envy of those who are successful or by criticizing them. Worry, usually expressed by finding fault with others, a tendency to spend beyond one's income, neglect of personal appearance, scolding and frowning, intemperance in the use of alcohol drink, sometimes through the use of narcotics, nervousness, lack of poise, self-consciousness, and lack of self-resilience. Overcaution, the habit of looking for the negative side of every circumstance, thinking and talking of possible failure instead of concentrating upon the means of succeeding, knowing all the roads to disaster but never searching for the plans to avoid failure, waiting for the right time to begin putting ideas and plans into action until the waiting becomes a permanent habit, remembering those who have failed and forgetting those who have succeeded, seeing the hole in the donut, but overlook the donut, but overlooking the donut. Procrastination, the habit of putting off until tomorrow matters that should have been done last year, spending enough time and creating alibis and excuses to have done the job. This symptom is closely related to overcaution, doubt, and worry. Refusal to accept responsibility when it can be avoided, willingness to compromise rather than put up a stiff fight, compromising with difficulties instead of harnessing and using them as stepping stones to achieve advancement, bargaining with life for a penny instead of demanding prosperity, opulence, riches, contentment, and happiness, and planning what to do if and when overtaken by failure instead of burning all bridges and making retreat impossible. This is manifested further by weakness of and often total lack of self-confidence, defiantness of purpose, self-control, initiative, enthusiasm, ambition, thrift, and sound reasoning ability, accepting poverty instead of demanding riches, in association with those who accept poverty instead of seeking the company of those who demand and receive riches. I'll take a pause there. I want to talk about worry here, especially this last little bit about intemperance in the use of alcoholic drinks, sometimes through the use of narcotics. But most importantly, what I want to talk about is nervousness, lack of poise, self-consciousness, and lack of self-resilience. And the reason why I want to talk about that is purely because I think the lack of worry amongst a lot of individuals, at least in my generation, has really not only skyrocketed, but taken a toll in a lot of individuals' lives. Worrying that they're not up to speed, worrying that they are, not looking the specific kind of person, they're not wearing the specific kind of clothes, worrying that they don't have the specific kind of riches or money, worrying that they don't have the specific kind of, knowledge or status or things around that nature, which I find very interesting. And I'm very curious as to why. I wish I could tell you. My only assumption is that it's related around social media. Since we are kind of more on the upbringing of social media, we grew up with social media. We are constantly on our phones looking at other people live their lives, or what it makes it seem like they're living their lives, and we start to question our own lives. And with that, we start to replicate it the best of our ability, but we never look in the self in the mirror and ask these, very important questions. That what this book and what we just read is finding the truth of oneself, finding the truth of, what kind of person I am, who do I want to be, what kind of values or principles do I hold, or certain things that I need to improve on. So, yeah. That's that. We'll finish it off there, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.